Well, as you can see, we've got the little prince that is moving around in amongst Chitwa Lodge. You can see a few sticks and other things there, which I apologize about, but you know how he is. He likes to be in it. And so what is really interesting about the sighting, and because we've only had no leopards around lately, we've decided we're not going to give you one, we're going to give you two. And just in case two is not enough, because there's Thamba up in the tree with his friend Hosana down below, there's also a third one here as well. So we've got three different leopards. You see the third one, Wildy, that is just on the other side there. So like I say, I apologize, we're in the middle of Chitwa Lodge, but there's the third leopard over there. So what I looks like to me is Thandi, Hosana, and Thamba. That's what it looks like. Now, Tamba's got a bit of kill up in the tree. You can see Hosana messing around. So let's rather look at the ones up in the tree than these two that are playing around in amongst all of the stuff. You can see Hosana doesn't really care too much. He's sniffing around, checking which guests have been sitting on what things and what has been actually happening. And now he's going to come up towards the tree, and it's going to be interesting to see what the reaction is from Thamba up in the tree. So we have a leopard trifecta, and I was saying to VM, I wonder if we're going to get all T's. There you go. He's picked up a piece of a leg. So this is what remains from Tingana's kill. So this is actually what really is quite incredible about all of this, is that this is 4 leopards that have fed off the same kill, plus 2 male lions, basically, is what we have. It's a really incredible situation. So there we go. There's Tingana having his feast and going to chew the last bits of that leg. How cool is this? Like I say, so we didn't have leopards for a few days, but we're more than making up for it now by having a whole bunch of them all together. So, Linda, you say it's Cataday after all. Well, yes, it is about as good a Cataday as you can ever ask for. When you get not one but two, well, not two actually, but 3 leopards all in one place together, Cataday certainly is off to a rollicking start. So, super, super cool to see them. And you can see there's Thamba busy tucking into whatever it is that is up there. I'm not sure what he actually has, but amazing how relaxed they all are together. And what amazes me about this whole situation is that Thamba is feeding, Hosana is feeding, and Thandi's just sitting and not even paying attention to either of them, and neither of the boys are growling at each other at this stage. It really is very odd. They are, after all related, and they all have their kind of situation where they are in the same bloodline. But now, I didn't dirt you wondering if they possibly could fight. Well, we know that Thamba and Hosana have come together and that they have growled and hissed, but there was no physical kind of contact that was made between the two of them. So it's an interesting sort of situation. They're both young individuals. They're not dominant yet, and therefore they're actually a little bit more tolerant. But it's going to be super interesting to see what happens once Hosana, let's say, finishes this leg, or Thamba finishes his, when they come back down, as to what the interaction is going to be. The amazing part about all of this for me is that Thandi is sitting with her back to both these boys and is not even caring whatsoever. Well, what I presume is Thandi sitting over there. I think it must be her. It looks like quite a bit bulky, so maybe it's not actually her after all. But I think it's Thandi over there, and that means that she's actually not even perturbed by the presence of Hosana, who's lying closer to her than Thamba and is not in any way defending it. Is that Tingana? It is Tingana. It is a male. So all 3 are boys. How ridiculous is this? That is amazing. So it's a father-son weekend. It's a getaway. We're all going away for a holiday. That's absolutely unbelievable. I would never have expected Tingana to be this relaxed with 2 young boys who are feeding off kills that he's made in the past. That is the most insane thing that I really didn't think that would be the case. It's amazing to see. And the boys are crunching. They're eating and they're feeding quite excessively. So I'm quite surprised. Maybe it's Mvula. Mvula we know would not be too worried about this, but I can't see nicely to actually know who it is. With their back to us like that, it's really very difficult to tell who this individual actually is. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a male. That's for a big male. So we'll have to just go around just now and have a look at who exactly it is. Now, Thamba is still peering through his bush at the top there. He's just watching what's going on and every now and then feasting on what's happening. But how ridiculous is this? 3 male leopards in one sighting is just absolute chaos. It really is. Alaramoi, you're asking if Thamba and Hosana are brothers from another mother, or do they have the same mother? So, no. So, Hosana's mother is Karula, who was the mother of Tandi, and Thamba is Tandi's son. So, it just goes to show that basically they are stepbrothers, if you want to call it that, I suppose. It's in a weird way. So, it's Thamba's grandmother is Hosana's mother. So actually, it's an uncle relationship, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, there we go. So Hosana is the uncle of Thamba, if you wanted to put it in human terms. But they are of similar age, which is where it gets all a little bit confusing. But they are related by blood, so they have the same bloodline coming down. And interestingly enough, even though their mothers are not the same, theoretically, Tingana is the father of both of them. So obviously, we don't know that for sure, but that's what we think. But this is just absolutely unbelievable. I actually can't believe that we've got 3 different leopards and all of them are boys, and that they are so relaxed with one another. There's not growling, there's not hissing, there's no foaming at the mouth. This is absolutely insane. Now, Anna Marie is saying that it's very interesting that they're all getting along and that there's no aggression between them. It was very weird. I would imagine up front there was a little bit, but what surprises me is that Thamba's the one in the tree with most of the carcass and Hosana's down on the ground. Now, I would have thought Hosana would have dominated Thamba and pushed him out. And in fact, what I would have really thought is that the bigger of the males would have actually made sure that he's kind of in charge of what goes on and pushed the 2 young boys off the food, but seems not to be worried. Maybe he's had his full and is now allowing that one to finish, or these 2 young boys to finish off their carcasses. It really is a very, very strange dynamic, this, and not something we're going to see every day. What we're seeing right now is a first for me. I've never seen 3 leopards in close proximity like this, feeding off carcasses, with a big male being the one that allows them to feed and is so relaxed with the 2 younger boys. It's a complete anomaly and not something that we're going to witness very often at all. It really is quite ridiculous. So there we go. It is definitely Tingana. Now that he's turned, I can see it's definitely him. You can see he's kind of looking around. Hosana is a bit nervous of him. You see Hosana stands up as soon as Tingana is around. So Hosana is just looking over his shoulder, although back to the leg we go. And I wonder if Tingana is not going to come and try and chase Hosana off that leg. See, Hosana is just turning to face him. This is insane. Jay, no, I have never heard of a dominant pair of leopards in the same area that roam around together as a coalition. That I've never seen. I've obviously seen a lot of male leopards come into contact with one another and you follow each other around in terms of trying to define territories, and that sometimes lasts a day or 2, but never a coalition that walks around together for days on end. And what you're seeing here is just absolutely insane. To have 3 males like this together is almost unheard of, and the fact that Tingana is so relaxed with them, Hosana doesn't seem too perturbed, Thamba up in the tree is not too worried. It just goes to show you that often we give these male leopards such a bad reputation, and particularly Tingana, he's got this bad rep that he's this, nasty male that just eats other leopards for the sake of it. And you can see here that both of these males theoretically are his sons, and he's very tolerant of both of them, even while they're feeding. He's not chasing them, he's not even drooling or excessively salivating. So he's obviously recognizes that these are both young individuals and his offspring, and that's why he's being fairly relaxed around them. It's going to change as time goes on, as we get a situation where Hosana and Thamba start to get bigger. We're going to have a situation where Tingana is going to change the whole dynamic, and it's going to become very, very different for these 2 young boys. He's going to be far less tolerant, especially once they start showing some size. At the moment, Tingana probably knows that he's much bigger than these 2, and therefore doesn't have to worry about anything and doesn't have to be too stressed about their sort of threat. But once they get a little bit bigger and they're starting to then vocalize, mate, scent bark, then you'll find Tingana is going to try and push them out. But this is just ridiculous. I actually can't believe that we have 3 male leopards in one sighting and that they are so relaxed. That is the key to this whole thing, is that they are absolutely chilled. And you can see Thamba's just having a field day. I think he's got the best spot out of all of them at the moment. Maybe Tingana is just a bit perplexed that his two offspring from different parents are sitting in the same area and everything is a bit weird for him. Maybe that's why he's a bit concerned, or I don't know. It's just such a strange thing. But Thamba is definitely tucking in to what is left of those back legs. And James, you say water sighting, you're in spotty heaven. Well, James, you and me both, and I think VM as well. VM was saying, we were saying it's time for a leopard this morning, and well, you can't ask for more than 3 in one sighting. So we have been absolutely spoilt. And how beautiful is that picture of Thamba just peering through the new marula leaves? Absolutely wonderful. So this is as good as it gets, and we are really in spotted heaven. And I wonder, wouldn't it be amazing if Thandi arrived here as well? Sean, you're asking whether I think Tingana will carry on tolerating these younger ones as they get older. No, I mean, in the experience of all the male leopards that I've followed over the years, they're tolerant of these young boys while they're still small and they're not scent marking, and they see them more as their offspring. But as they start to get older and bigger and they start to develop, so the males become a lot less tolerant and will actually start pushing them out of these areas and make them sort of go off and become nomadic. So the interesting thing with these two young boys and what is going to make it very kind of different and to follow them around over the next little bit is going to be interesting, is that you've got a situation where Tingana is an aging leopard, so he is still in his prime, he is still dominant, he is still the one that is looking after this area, but at the end of the day he is getting older, and he is about 12 years old now, and so his time is starting to get less and less. And these two boys, theoretically, in 2 years' time, if Tingana is 14, shouldn't really be the dominant male, but these two boys will then be in prime position for one of them to take over these areas. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether one of these guys ends up being the dominant males in this area and Tingana then becomes the nomad. That's going to be an interesting case. But for now, his relation to them and his demeanor towards them is just ridiculously relaxed, and it's not something that we're going to see very often at all. We know Mvula was like this with his offspring a lot of the time, and even young males that weren't his, he seemed to be quite comfortable to share carcasses. But to see them like this, where Tingana is allowing them to feed and himself not coming in and imposing himself and trying to feed, is really quite ridiculous. I've never really seen this. Even with Mvula, when there was carcasses, he used to dominate the carcass, push the young males off. He would tolerate them being close by, but he wouldn't let them feed. And you can see here both the young boys are feeding and Tingana is the one sitting watching. So it is a weird situation, and not something that you would see every day at all. Elitra, you're saying maybe it's because there's no female around for them to get a little bit kind of feisty with one another and fight over. Well, it's possible. At the end of the day, still with leopards, and we saw this with Thamba and Hosana when they came together at Twin Dams a month ago, is that even if there's no female and two young males that are not dominant, they're not mating, they're not pushing for dominance, they will still have a confrontation and still be some sort of aggression towards each other. They were growling and hissing. Yes, they didn't come to physical blows, but there was still some sort of growling and hissing that happened. So there was no female present at that time. This situation, I think it's more a case that Tingana recognizes these two individuals as leopards that he spent a lot of time with, that are still young and they are still under his sort of radar in terms of they're not a threat to him. So he doesn't have to worry about them. He knows that they are offspring of his, and therefore he's being a lot more relaxed about the whole situation. It's a really weird one, and like I say, there might be the fact that no female is here changes his whole demeanor. It's difficult to say, but until such time as a female does arrive, we're not going to be really sure as to why these guys are being so tolerant of one another. Obviously, Hosana and Thamba have spent time together around kills before, and we've seen them spending time at Twin Dams where they were a little bit aggressive to one another, but still kind of were in the same area. So it's an interesting kind of case study, and it's going to be weird to see how Thamba and Hosana interact, because without Hosana having a mother, he tends to cling on to wherever there's other females, and we've seen him a lot with Thandi and around Thandi, and I wonder if him and Thamba are just going to end up getting quite used to one another and walking around sort of using one another as a sort of platform to grow up and get used to each other. It's weird. Right, now, because it's cat day and because it is a male-themed day, we'll have to call it Man Day, we've got a situation where James has also got a male cat. So let's go across to James and see what male cat he's got and what these males get up to in the meantime. There is a scavenger as well that is slowly making its way towards where Tingana is. So there you can see the hyenas have arrived. There's 2 of them, as well as the 3 leopards. So it's all going a bit chaotic. Now that hyena is going straight to where Hosana had his leg. There we go. And Hosana wouldn't have been able to crunch that down, but a hyena most definitely can. And there goes the hyena trotting off with its prize in the form of a carcass, or in the form of a leg. Now you see, look how he's crouching down, waiting for the hyena to go past. Once the hyena's gone past, he pops back up again. Exactly the same behavior that Tingana displayed. Now Thamba, of course, doesn't have to worry because he's right up at the top. And so his sort of story is that he can just sit there and watch what goes on around him. He doesn't have to worry too much about all these different things that are happening. He can just sit and feed and take it very, very easy. That hyena will make very short work of that bone. It's not something that's very difficult for him to chew, and in fact, actually, a hyena will crunch that down in a space of about 2 seconds. So you can see Hosana's just watching the hyena in the distance, not too perturbed at all by the presence of the hyenas and the proximity of those hyenas. There we go, he's just watching now that the hyena spotted him. He was just going a little bit lower. Let's see what happens now. The hyena might rush in towards where Hosana is, just thinking that there might be food. No. They seem to be in a bit of a hiatus. And we know Hosana is not that perturbed by hyenas. We saw him around Treehouse with that kill where he was very close to a hyena. In fact, they were almost sniffing one another. And so it's almost like they interest him more than anything else. And he can hear the hyena crunching those bones. And that's probably why he's intrigued. He's maybe thinking there's a bit more food there that he could potentially get from those hyenas. But absolutely insane sighting. This is just ridiculous. There we go. Hosana's just watching now, settling down to watch. So he's obviously happy that Thamba's feeding up there. Not too perturbed by the hyena now. And so everybody's reached a state of just taking it very easy. Weird. This is all that this... Maybe we should do a one-word tweet. That's actually a good time for a one-word tweet. #SafariLive. What this sighting makes you feel. For me, it's just a weird sighting. It's something that is indescribable, really. I want to try and go forward so we can still see Tingana as well. Because he's popped himself behind some of the rubble that is in this area. So if we get into this position here, we should be able to at least see Tingana as well between the sort of rubble and other things that are around. But absolutely insane sighting. To have all 3 of these boys together and the hyenas is pretty ridiculous. So there we go. You can see he's just watching and he's not too perturbed at all. Like I say, he's not salivating. It's really crazy. Lidriway, you're asking, do smaller male leopards become nomadic as they get... former alpha leopards become nomadic as they get older. So yes, they do. So what you'll find is a situation where, and a prime example of this is Mvula, is that males that are out of their prime, that are pushed out by younger males, then do become nomadic. They'll move around and just try and avoid the dominant males. And so Mvula is the absolute best at that. He's able to get around and move around without actually pushing anybody else out and without sort of making a scene and calling a scent marking, and he allows then Tingana and all these other males to move, and if he hears them, he just goes in the opposite direction. So they do become nomadic as they get older, much like a lion. If you look at the Matimba males in the lion world, how they've shifted and moved in their lifetime as bigger and younger males have pushed them out. So it shows you how these males work, and it's the exact same with leopard. As they get pushed around, they then become nomadic. A prime example of a nomadic leopard other than Mvula would be somebody like Kashan, So when I first started in the Sabi Sands, Kashan was a young male that was around the center to eastern parts of Singita, and he then moved into the western sector, and he's now down at Sabi. So he's all over the place, and he's shifted and moved accordingly as bigger dominant males have pushed him, and he's now starting to get a little bit older. So it most definitely does happen like that. But this is just ridiculous. Everywhere you look is just some sort of movement. So Thamba up in the tree, like I said, 2 hyenas that are hanging around on the airstrip. You've got Hosana that is slowly but surely edging his way towards the tree, and it's going to be interesting to see if Hosana actually gets into the tree. And then Tingana, who's just doing his own thing now. He's not even watching the boys at all. So it really is the most weird situation, but so epic. Now, I believe there's some one-word tweets. Mac, you said your hashtag, your one-word tweet, should I say, is awesome. It is awesome. It is an incredible sighting to have. To have Tingana awesome. Tingana awesome. Sorry, thanks, Megs. I didn't hear that first part. So, yeah, I suppose it is. It's just an amazing thing. I think that all 3 of them together makes this just the most crazy sighting. And to see 3 leopards together is such a rare thing, and to have 3 males is just even more incredible. Now, Red Fire Queen, you say peculiar. Well, yes, peculiar is probably a good word for all of this. It's just a completely odd situation. And the thing is that because the behavior of these animals is so different, so, peculiar in that these male leopards, generally, they should be salivating, they should be somewhat upset that there's other males around, but not one of the 3 are like that. And it's probably because, like I say, Tingana is not too fazed by the fact that Hosana is around, and Thamba, he knows that they're younger individuals, and should he want to assert himself, he can. But it's just weird that he's not in any way going and actually bossing the carcass. I would have thought he would have been the one that would have been up in the tree with the carcass, and he would have left the 2 boys down below. But for some reason, he's not too perturbed by all of this, and so he's pretty happy to allow the 2 youngsters to do their thing, and for everybody to kind of get a bit of meal. Christine, you say this is your one word is brotherhood. Well, it's going to be interesting. I wonder if we're not going to see more and more sightings of Hosana and Thamba around one another. They seem to be occupying a similar sort of space, and at the end of the day, they're both young individuals that are trying to work their way around and trying to find a sort of way to develop and get themselves into a dominant status. And so maybe we'll see them hanging around a lot more. And we know that Hosana likes to follow Tundi, so maybe this is not the last time we see this interaction between Tingana and these 2 young males. But look at those eyes. Does he not just have the most incredible eyes, particularly when he peers through these green bushes? Those greens almost highlight the colors of his eyes, and he just looks absolutely incredible. Now, I'm hoping that he does come down at some stage, or Hosana tries to go up, because Hosana is slowly but surely sneaking towards the tree. You can see he's watching Thamba and is looking up into the tree and trying to see what is happening. And so I wonder, it's going to be interesting once they go up to see if Hosana, 1, does climb, and 2, what the reaction of Thamba is and how the size difference compares, because the last time we saw them together, they were not too far apart, and I wonder if maybe Thamba has caught up a little bit in terms of his growth. But Hosana, you can see, is starting to get a little dewlap forming now, so it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens over the next little bit. He's slowly edging towards the marula tree himself. No, he's found himself his own leg, so that's what Hosana was looking for. Doesn't he look happy with himself? Well done, boy. This is just absolutely insane. And he's going to just sit and start feeding off that. So literally directly above him is another male leopard, and you can see both of them are completely relaxed that the other one is there. Straight above him is where Thamba is sitting. It's amazing the camouflage that Thamba shows, and you can see why sometimes even spotting leopards in trees is not that easy. It's quite difficult. If you were far away, you would really struggle to be able to see that, and you'd be a really sort of battle to pick him up in amongst the vegetation. So It is an amazing sort of camouflage that these guys have got, even in that situation. But I can't believe that the two of them are just so relaxed. I would have thought Hosana would have been a bit wary of lying right underneath Thamba the way that he currently is, but he's not concerned at all. He's just crunching away on his leg and is taking it as easy as you could imagine. Super weird. I can honestly say I've never seen this before. I've seen with females and their cubs, and I've seen it with a male and a female, but I have never seen a situation with two young boys like this while a big dominant male looks on, of them feeding in such close proximity, and for a dominant male to look, he's not even looking at them, he's looking the opposite direction completely. So he's not perturbed in any way by these two boys feeding, and I wonder if he's not going to go. He almost looks like he's got something else that he's up to. Maybe there's going to be another leopard that's going to arrive. He's almost looking as though he's spotted something. He's got his nose to the air and sniffing. So it's going to be interesting to see what Tingana's next move is. I was hoping that he would come this direction. Now, the only thing about Hosana that he's got to worry about is with hyenas that have been lurking around, is he's busy crunching on bones down at the bottom. Now, those crunching of bones is going to attract hyenas, and if they come in, he doesn't have too much space. He's going to have to then go up the very same tree that Thamba is in, and whether that's going to cause a disturbance is going to be interesting. So the hyenas are slowly but surely starting to meander their way towards where Hosana is. So I wonder if they're not going to come in. I think that the hyenas, they're also a bit perplexed by this whole situation, and with the presence of a big male like Tingana, maybe that's why they're not being as chauvinistic and bullying as they sometimes are with leopards. You'll normally find a young male leopard like this would be pushed off even a bone of that size, but maybe with Tingana and the presence of the other two, Hosana's getting away with having to feed, or being able to feed on the ground. It really is weird. Even the hyena's behavior is not the norm this morning. Maybe it's the weather that's making everybody go crazy. But I just love that picture where he's just staring through the vegetation and the foliage of this marula. It's about as good as it gets. Now, in terms of food-wise, there won't be any left by this afternoon. I doubt that all three of these individuals will be here this afternoon, given that the weather is overcast and the food item is going to be pretty much finished fairly shortly. Thamba's just finishing up the last leg up that side, and we've got Hosana with the leg here, and we know the hyenas have carried off another leg. So I would imagine this afternoon that these guys might be split up. I would imagine it will be close by, but they will probably be split up and not lying in such close proximity, which is probably what should be happening and not what we're seeing right now. This is pretty ridiculous. Oh, there goes a piece that just landed on her son. So Thamba dropped a piece of skin that you can see Hosana's busy eating, and it landed on him, and he got an absolute fright. He almost jumped out of his skin as it landed on him. But now he's almost looking up as if to say, send some more down my way. This is just absolutely insane. Sometimes the Sabi Sands is just the most crazy place. If you told somebody that you were going to see one leopard, they would be extremely happy, and you told them you were going to see two leopards together, they would be even over the moon and probably not believe you. But to see three, and to see them in like this, is just absolutely insane. And the fact that they are relaxed enough that we can sit and watch them just really is quite phenomenal. It's mind-blowing, actually, that we are able to experience things like this. Insane sighting at the moment. So my name is Tristan, on camera today at WildEarthTV, and we've got not one but two, but three leopards all together, and they are all males, and it is just a very, very weird situation. So we've got Hosana, a young male leopard on the bottom. He's now approaching about 20 months old, so he's still a young individual. He unfortunately lost his mom recently, and he seems to have tried to kind of follow other leopards around in the search of food. And what's happened is a big dominant male killed two impalas about 4 days ago. He was then robbed by two male lions, and they then left a bit of the carcasses. And so this young male has come to feed in and come to scavenge off that carcass. And then up above him is another young male. So this is Thamba, who comes from, well, it's basically Hosana's nephew, and it comes from the same lineage. He's feeding on the rest of the carcass that they've scavenged up above him, which is completely ridiculous. To see two young male leopards like this in such close proximity is absolutely insane. So, if you've got any questions, remember you can post your questions in the comment section below, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. And then the big dominant male, who's the one that actually made all of these kills, is that individual over there. Now, he's lying next to a lodge. We're right in the middle of a lodge at the moment, and that's one of the special things about the Sabi Sands, is that we've got these relaxed individual leopards that will move into lodges and will take sort of over and are not too perturbed by what goes on. So you can see there is a tire there, and that's from the lodge itself. And so he's lying just behind there watching the two youngsters go about their business. And it's a strange situation, and a very unique one, in that generally leopards are solitary cats, and you'll find a situation where young male leopards generally are pushed out by big dominant males. And so to have a male leopard like this that is completely relaxed and is allowing these two young males to be in his territory and to be in his area and to feed right next to him is absolutely unbelievable and completely unique. It's not something that we're going to see every single day, and it's not something that we are going to witness very often. Leopards are territorial, and that's what makes this sighting so unique, is that the big dominant male off to our left is allowing these two young males who are at the process of, well, the one is in the process of leaving his mother, so his mom is slowly but surely leaving him for longer periods of time, which is that individual up in the top there. And so he's just starting his process of now becoming this individual that goes out and starts to set up a territory. The other young male, which is the one male that is down on the ground, he unfortunately lost his mother in March of this year. We don't know what happened to her. She just disappeared, and he was basically orphaned at about a year old. Since then, he's gone about just trying to make his way in life, and so both of these young individuals are not territorial at the moment, and that's why the big dominant male that's lying off to the side is tolerating them. At the moment, he knows that these are both his offspring, so he mated with both the females that produced these two youngsters, and he knows that they're not really a threat because of their size. They're still small individuals, and so that's why he's not threatened by them at the moment. But it is weird, because generally they are solitary, generally they are territorial, and they should start pushing each other away. Now, Chassis, you're asking if they are related. So yes, this male, as far as we know, has mated with both the mothers of these two younger males, and so it means that basically these are both his offspring. We're not 100% sure, obviously, because females can mate with multiple different males during their estrous cycle, and to determine paternity is sometimes very, very difficult without doing DNA testing. But as far as we know, he mated with both the mothers, and they would then produce cubs within the time frame of him mating with them. And so basically you've got a situation that they're related from the father side, and then in terms of the mothers, the mother of this individual that we're watching now is the grandmother of the one that is up in the tree. So that is how the kind of bloodline works. So they are all somehow connected, and so, Emily, I haven't chatted about what animals they hunt, and we've just been discussing the family dynamics, but basically with these guys is that they will tend to go after small to medium-sized antelope, but they have a very, 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 very wide array of food items that they like to go after. So you'll find leopards will hunt anything from small insects like termites all the way up to large mammals like baby elephants, baby giraffe. So they have a very broad spectrum, but most of what they hunt here in this particular part of the world is small to medium-sized antelope, and what they're feeding on right now is what's called an impala. Now, an impala is a medium-sized antelope for us. guess it's similar to a deer in the United States or in other parts of the world. That's about the size of what we see them going after mostly. And so there's the leg of that particular antelope, and this will be all that's left. And you can see this particular male is just trying to get comfortable on the branch itself. He's quite a character, this youngster. He's all over the place. So Sadiqa, a leopard's lifespan, it depends if we're looking at males or females. So males tend to have a slightly shorter lifespan because of the rough nature of their life, where they've got to protect territory, they've got to push other males away, they've got to fight for territories. They tend to live for between 12 and 14 years. That's a rough sort of lifespan for a male, whereas the females will often go up towards 16, 17 years of age because they're not having to deal with as much and patrol as much territory and try and fight and keep their territories from younger males. They tend to not have as many trials and tribulations, and that allows them to then sometimes grow and live a little bit longer. But it's not always the case. Obviously, there's situations where individuals will disappear, and you'll find males living longer and females living shorter. Annie, you're asking if the father leopard would ever share food with the mother of either of these individuals. Well, not really. So how leopard society works is that a mother is completely independent from the male. So what happens is that a male will mate with a female, she'll produce offspring, and he plays no part in the fathering other than defending the territory and making sure other males don't move in that could potentially kill those cubs. So that's how it kind of works in terms of the dynamic between male and female. When it comes to food, the males are always king. They will chase the females off food. So let's say, hypothetically, these were two females that we saw here. You would probably find the male would come in and assert himself and try and take over the carcass. That's generally what happens. And that's what makes what we're seeing here so unique, is that this dominant male is not actually chasing the two young males off food. I have seen dominant males with younger males before on carcasses, and normally the dominant male is the one that controls the food item, pushes the two youngsters away, and that's why this is just such an odd sighting and just so unique, and something that we'll probably, in all likelihood, not see again in a very, very long time. We're being absolutely spoilt by having a situation like this. Now, in the background, there's also some hyenas that are starting to arrive as well. So they do have natural predators. There you can see a hyena is just running in now. Now I wonder if this hyena is going to start chasing any one of the leopards. There you go. You see it starting to come in. So they've heard the crunching of the bones, and now they're coming in to investigate if there is some scraps. Now, Soval, this is one of the predators that leopards have to worry about. Not so much when they're big adults like what we see here. So these young males and this big dominant male don't have to stress about a hyena like this. When they're cubs, hyenas are very, very, very dangerous to leopards, and a number of leopard cubs are killed by hyenas every year. Then the other predators that they'll have is lions. They'll also have a situation where other male leopards will be a problem. So let's say this male leopard produced cubs with a female. If a new male leopard came into the area, he's going to kill those cubs to bring that female back into estrus and try and then assert himself as a dominant individual. But this hyena is slowly but surely walking straight towards the big dominant male leopard. Now, a big dominant male leopard and a young hyena like this are not going to really scrap it out, because that young hyena is going to be nervous. You can see the hyena is now turned. The leopard's just watching him. His head is down. He's focusing and just watching what's going on. And the hyena is now deciding rather to come towards the young individual. And he's probably going to try and rob this young individual. So he'll use bravado, and the hyena will rush in to try and push the youngster away. And being a young leopard, you see he's nervous and he runs and drops the food item, and the hyena can then steal it. And that's why they go up into trees with their food, is to try and protect their food and to try and keep it to themselves. Now, Brianna, you're asking how far are we from observing these leopards? Well, at the moment, the closest leopard to us is probably, I would say, about 20 meters away. It's not very far at all. And the thing is about this area is that because we are around every day and we find these leopards when they're still tiny and they're cubs, they get very used to the vehicles. And so some of these leopards will lie right in the shadow of the vehicle and not worry about us at all. And so we're very fortunate in that we do have relaxed leopards, and it's one of the reasons that this particular area is probably best place to view leopards in the world. It is an incredible part of the world to see a leopard, and it's why this reserve became famous, and it's because these leopards have become so used to our presence that they move around very, very close to us, and we are able to get these intimate views of leopards as they go about their life. And you can see they're not perturbed by us at all, so they're not looking at us, they're not watching what our movements are, they're just in a situation where they are completely acting naturally and doing their own thing. And that's all because we don't try and steal food from them, we don't chase them, we don't hurt them, there's no hunting that takes place in any of these areas, and that means that the leopards have become trusting of these vehicles and know that the vehicles are not something to worry about. They're completely unperturbed by them. Now, you may have noticed some of the other vehicles that are in the area with us, and so there are tourists that are in this particular section of the reserve, and so if you do hear a vehicle coming in and out, it is because of that situation, is that there are tourists that are coming to see these animals as well. Dab, this area is most certainly protected. This is an area that is heavily protected. We have basically armed anti-poaching units that will patrol to make sure that people are not coming in here and hunting illegally. All of the animals that lie inside here, as well as the vegetation and everything else, are completely protected. And so it is a protected area. We form part of what is called the Greater Kruger National Park. So it is a massive tract of land in the northeastern corner of South Africa that is protected, and we are a different game reserve that is attached to the Kruger National Park, which is the national park, and this is a private land area, but it is open and it forms one big ecosystem that is completely protected, and the animals are free to roam around in a massive, massive area. And so it is an incredible part of the world, and it is amazing to see wilderness like this. Now, what's interesting is I wonder if this male leopard might not go up the tree. If he does, we might see a bit of an altercation between them, because what happens with male leopards is that they are very, very defensive of their food items when it comes to each other. So with a hyena, they know a hyena's got a very powerful bite and that it's dangerous to go after them. But when two leopards fight, it is a very different story. And if this leopard goes up into the tree, the leopard that's up in the tree at the moment is not going to be too happy to have another individual coming into this area. It really is absolutely insane to see this, and I wonder if this young male is going to have the brazen attitude to be able to try and go up and take on the other one up in the tree itself. Looks like he might go up. He's busy sniffing around at the base there. You can see the hyenas still lurking in the background as well. They're still watching and waiting for more scraps to be dropped down. And look at that leopard. Look at those beautiful eyes. You can see he's sniffing as well. Tez, you're wondering if we found one of these leopards injured, would we go and intervene and help it, or would we let nature take its course? Well, Tez, it depends on what the injury is. So if it's something like man-made, so let's say somebody unfortunately has left a piece of wire around and it's wrapped around a leg or something like that, then yes, we will intervene. We'll come in and we'll try and get rid of it, because that animal would never have encountered that naturally and it will never be able to actually deal with it naturally. Whereas if it's a natural injury, so something like, let's say, another leopard attacks one of these individuals and they get hurt from that, then no, we don't interfere. And the reason for that is that nature has a way of basically dealing with and reducing weaker bloodlines, and it's the way nature was. If we weren't here, it still would have happened, and there's a reason for it. And even an animal like a leopard dying is going to cause nutrients to be put back into the bush. There's going to be scavengers that are going to feed off it. There's all kinds of parts of that take place. And so if we start tinkering with that, we're then interfering with the balance of nature, and we have then a big problem. And the thing is also is that a lot of people will become very emotionally attached to things like leopards and lions and various others, but won't be too attached to the antelopes, and so therefore wouldn't want to treat antelopes, but want to treat leopards for the same thing. So if we apply that rule, then it's a general blanketed rule for everyone. Right, that's unfortunately all we've got time for on our Facebook Live. I hope you've all enjoyed it. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us, and so what we're going to do is just leave you with the last few images of the leopards up in the tree feeding. So we're back to our normal feed, and so it's still just an absolutely incredible sighting. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to stay here for much longer. There's a number of vehicles that are trying to get into the sighting, and we've been here for quite some time. So I am going to have to start chatting on the radio and trying to just let some of the other guys get in and get a chance to see them. Ultimately, this is not something that happens every day, and we want to give everybody an equal opportunity of seeing what goes on. So unfortunately, I think that's all we're going to be able to do today, and all we are going to be able to spend time doing, unfortunately, because it is, like I say, just that kind of sighting that everybody wants to come and see. Oh, there's a hyena that's got a mouthful of leaves and fur, which is not ideal. I was hoping for more skin or some sort of protein, but not leaves, that's for sure. You can see how just sniffing around and just checking. Tingana's completely asleep. Hosana has found himself a place to lie, and Thamba, well, he's still sitting up, taking it very, very easy at the moment. But like I say, we are going to have to leave the sighting very shortly because, well, there's a number of vehicles in the area and that want to head into this. But it's been an absolutely insane sighting, and something that, well, I don't think I'll ever forget. And so while we move out and radio and use all of those kind of things, let's go back to Brent Leo Smith and see what he's been up to over the last little bit. How's that? We are sitting with the leopards, so the male lion was still sleeping, so we decided to rather come back to our leopards and see what's gone on. So apparently Hosana chased a hyena across the airstrip, and he's now lying on the other side of the airstrip. Thumba's still up in his tree, just taking it very easy, and well, Tingana apparently is passed out as flat could be. So it's everybody's now settling into their respective places, and I think settling down for the rest of the day. And you can see little Thamba is just grooming himself at the moment. He was watching Tingana for a while, watching the male lion for a while, and now he's just finding himself a spot to rest. But I think he's going to rest on the other side there. I don't think he's going to face us too much. He's kind of draped himself along, and there's a little branch that goes out where he is, so I think that's where he's going to position himself just to have a little bit of a nap, although it doesn't look very comfortable at all. You can see how he's using his back legs almost to hold him in place, and that's probably because he's seeing that male lion, so that's why he wants to face that direction, to be able to face the male lion. It's amazing, the camouflage of Hosana, though. It's quite cool because we've got Thamba here, and then we've got to my right a hyena that's lying down. So it's like a straight line. If you just follow the dots, it's almost like connect the dots this morning. So here's my hyena, they're over there, and that is just taking it very easy. And then if we go just up above the hyena to the right on the termite mound is Hosana sitting over there. So it's one straight line of predators. It's just ridiculous, isn't it, to have these guys all like this? It is absolutely insane. So Hosana's just watching from that side. He's probably decided termite mound is better than anywhere else, and so that's where I'm going to stay. You can see Thamba is watching also a couple monkeys that are alarm calling, which can see him. So he's got lots to look at, that's for sure. I didn't do it. His coat color is not because he's younger. Different individual leopards will have different coat colors. It's like much as us as people. We all have different skin tones and colors. So some are more gold than others, but he does have a particularly gold coat. Particularly in light like this, it seems to just kind of pop out a little bit. And then again in late afternoon golden light, his coat is richly dark gold. He's a very, very pretty cat. He's much darker than what Hosana is, and even Tingana. But it's not to do with age. It's all just to do with his genetics, and that he's just a slightly darker individual than some of the others. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around, because of the lion and the monkey's alarm calling in Tingana, I'm just going to hop around the other side of the tree so that we can actually see little Thamba's face and not look at just his backside and tail the whole time, because that's not going to be that pleasant. So what I'm going to do is just go back to where we were parked pretty much earlier. I don't want to park right underneath him because, well, I don't think we're going to get the best view of him. So I'm going to try and just go around and see if from where we were earlier, if that will be a little bit better. But you can see straight in front of me where the male lion is. He's just parking off directly in front there. Thanks, VM. So that's where he's lying. So if you wanted to know just kind of proximities of these things, it really is ridiculous as how close everybody is. Faith Faith in FC, all the way in the Masai Mara. Faith, you're wondering how old Thamba is. Well, Faith, Thamba was born in July of last year, so that makes him, what now? What are we... At the moment, we're in October now. Jeez, this year is running away with us. So he's now 15 months old. So still a young individual, but he is massive. He's big for his age, got big feet, and he is seriously one of the most beautiful cats that we get in this area. He has the most incredible eyes, and he really is my favorite out of all of them. I mean, look at that individual. He is absolutely mesmerizing. You can see he's got that pink nose, and he is going to be so big when he's older. He's got a bulky face and big neck and shoulders. He's going to be a serious individual when he gets a little bit older. Now, it is starting to rain a little bit, so I wonder if that's not going to drive Thamba to come down the tree. At the moment, he's busy watching Tingana, who's just off on our left-hand side, like I say, sleeping. And you can see now, look, he's stood up a little bit. And so I think it's because it's starting to rain. He's probably going to find that he's going to come out of the tree if it's raining and try and settle somewhere where it's at least a bit of vegetation and cover. And that's pretty much what we have to do too. We have to end up putting on covers and trying to seek some sort of shelter. So it's the same for leopards. But isn't that just magnificent? He is such a beautiful individual, this guy. We are spoilt when we get to see leopards like this. And so is Hosana at the end of the day. Our two young boys are both beautiful individuals. Denise, leopards, they are on the endangered list, but they're not critically endangered or anything like that. There's still a number of leopards throughout Africa. The thing about a leopard is it's able to survive in places that no other cats can, and they are widely spread and distributed through Africa. You find them in forests, you find them in mountainous areas, you find them in savannas like what we're in now. So deserts, they can really survive anywhere. And so they're probably, of all the big cats, the least endangered. You'll find obviously cheetah is the most endangered and lions fast following behind them. And we're losing a number of lions quite quickly. Oh, look at the agility of these guys. Absolutely amazing. Have you found yourself a better place to lie down, Thamba? He's almost sniffing around, I think, trying to just see if there's any more. And look at those big eyes. He's such a curious cat as well, and it's one of the reasons why I love spending time with Thamba, is because he's always up to something. He's always curious. Right, now while we watch Thamba sniff around and get our rain covers on, I believe Brent's lions are starting to stalk, so let's jump across to him quickly. Well, unfortunately, little Thamba has run away. He came down the tree and he's now trotting away to get out of the way of Tingana and Hosana. And so there's Tingana watching Thamba running down the airstrip. Hosana's on the other side, and so I think little Thamba has decided this is too many leopards for me, I'm out of here, and has run. And you can see Tingana is just watching, and Thamba, I can see him just in the distance trotting now. He's going straight towards Chitwa Lodge, so maybe he's going to go to where he feels a lot safer, which is in the lodge itself. But Tingana's not really chasing after him, he's just watching and kind of looking, and Hosana's not really doing anything either. So I think Thamba unfortunately just lost his nerve a little bit. There's Hosana on the other side there somewhere. But what I did want to show you guys, which is really very interesting, and I'm just going to try and go forward a little bit so that BM can put it on camera for you, is just the amount of abuse this poor marula tree has taken over this week, the course of this week. If we have a look here, well, here comes Tingana anyway, so he might come up into the tree, but if we have a look at the tree itself, look at how damaged this tree is from all the claws going up and down. So that's chunks of bark that have been pulled off via these leopards climbing, and there's actually one big cut from where the lions have climbed. So a leopard would never leave a gouge that big, but that is from where the male lions climbed themselves. So they leave much deeper, bigger gouges in the tree. So you can see the difference between a lion, that's on the left there, and then the leopards are the smaller little ones that are dotted in between all of it. It's absolutely insane to see the difference between all of the markings and how much abuse this poor tree has taken with all these big cats going up and down it all the time. Now, of course, the tree itself will be okay. There goes Tingana. He's trotting after Thamba at the moment. So you can see there goes Thamba. Thamba's running off, and so is Tingana. So we're going to try and see if we can keep up with them. I don't know if we're going to be able to, but I'm going to try keep up with them, but Tingana is now chasing, for some reason, chasing Thamba. He's been fine the whole morning, and now all of a sudden with Thamba kind of retreating, it's almost like Tingana now has to assert himself and has to actually chase back. So it's a really weird thing to see. I didn't expect him to be doing it, but let's try and see if we can keep up. Obviously poor Hosana is just sitting on the other side. He's not worried. He's probably quite thankful that he's not being chased this morning, and that it's rather Thamba that's getting the runaround. Sorry guys. So there's Tingana in front. I can still see him. I can't see Thamba anymore. Solar, who's a new viewer, welcome Solar to Safari Live and to the biggest game drive vehicle in the world. You asking, is this really live? Yes, we are 100% live from South Africa and the Masai Mara. There you can see, look, Thamba's running on that side, and there's Tingana in the foreground. So Tingana is busy chasing behind him. Now, Thamba, you need to watch yourself, because Tingana sometimes can be a little bit on the difficult side and can be quite a handful. So you see, Tingana, every time Thamba turns his back, Tingana chases after him, and Thamba is trotting away with his nose down, smelling. And so this is not a great situation for Thamba. He needs to get out of here and try and leave this area as quick as possible so that Tingana stops chasing him. And there's Tingana straight behind him, also running in. And so we're going to keep up with them as long as we can. And hopefully we'll have a situation where that's all. He's just basically asserting himself and making sure everyone understands that he's the dominant male. So it's not nasty leopard or anything like that. He's just making sure these young boys understand that he's the big guy. And actually, there we go, he's turned now and he's just scent marking, so he's giving a very visual display as well as a chemical display to Thamba. This is my territory, this is where I am. You guys are okay here if you just behave yourselves and don't scent mark and don't try and take my females. So there's a very clear message that has been sent to Thamba that Tingana is still the king of this particular area, or the Duke as we like to call him. You can see he's looking over his shoulder a little bit, but at least it's all settled down. So, Umka, you're asking, do leopards claw trees and mark them as tigers would and use them for territorial markings? No, not really. They basically, what happens with the leopard is it will use a tree to be able to sharpen its claws, but other than that, it's not really using it for a scent marking purpose. Now, VM says he heard some growling down here and some vocalizing, so we're just quickly going to check. Maybe there's another leopard that's arrived here. I know Thamba ran this way, but I just want to double check and see if there is anything. Now, I apologize if there's some spots of rain on the lens. It is still raining a little bit, and we're getting a whole bunch more rain. No, I think Thamba's run a long way. He's already gone down past the airstrip. So I think that's it for Thamba. He's disappeared into the lodge itself. The guys are telling me he's in the lodge itself. So we're going to leave him there. And you can see the hyena still lying on the airstrip. Oh, it's just chaos. There's just stuff everywhere at the moment. It's pretty insane. Tingana seems to have given up. He's now wandering back towards his tree. So he's happy that he's seen off one young male. Now, I wonder if he's going to come back towards Hosana and maybe just kind of assert himself on Hosana as well. But Tingana should be where there he is. He's just striding off on my right-hand side. So I want to just get a little bit further forward to where Hosana is in case Tingana decides that he wants to come and push Hosana around as well. I think Hosana's run too, so Hosana has also run. He's not on his termite mount anymore, so it's just Tingana that is left now. I don't know where Hosana has gone. Mount to my left. Yeah, maybe he saw Tingana chasing Thamba and thought, to get out of here, I'm going to get myself away from this area and get myself into some sort of safety. So I do apologize if you see VM wiping the lens. Unfortunately, like I said, there is a bit of rain, and so when we're driving in big open spaces like the airstrip, a lot of rain will fall and then hit the lens. So I do apologize about that. You can see Hyena is now off. Hyena is walking in the same direction as to where Hosana was earlier. So I wonder if maybe he's also just kind of a bit confused as to why all these leopards have just scattered all of a sudden. So it's going to be interesting just to see what happens here and who ends up going where. Tingana seems to have laid down now. He's not interested in doing anything, and I have no idea, like I say, where Hosana has gone. So that's pretty much the distribution of all of our leopards in one little go. It's amazing how quickly it happens. We'll go back towards Tingana just to see where he's moving to. He's just slinking away, slinking. This is going to be better, yeah. So let's see. Now, it's not the easiest to know. An individual that's kind of walking through quite a thick, dense place, and his tummy looks really full as well. So I wonder if he hasn't had another meal since these two impalas, and that's why he also wasn't so frustrated about having these young boys around feeding as well. But it just amazes me how it's gone from this relaxed demeanor where Tingana's watching Thamba, Thamba's feeding, Hosana's around, to all of a sudden Tingana not really happy and chasing Thamba. And I think it was instigated by the fact that Thamba actually started to run. Jared's buddy, you are saying maybe Thamba was scent marking and Tingana didn't like that. No. So what happened was Thamba was in the tree, and little Thamba then came down the tree and immediately started running. As soon as he started running, that's when Tingana became a little bit more interested in what was. I think what happened was Thamba saw Tingana low down right near the tree, and he got a little bit scared, and that's why he ended up now. Tingana is just busy watching in and looking up into the tree to see if there's any scraps for him. So I don't think there's going to be too much. So I'm going to try just get one last view. I don't really have much time left. And so while he's kind of just at the base of the tree, we're going to just try and sneak in. There we go. So it's not a great view, but it's... There we go, at least a view for the last little bit. But a lot of you are saying what a crazy drive we've had. It has been just the most insane drive. To think that we've had the famous Scar, we've had Birmingham boys, we've had Tingana, Thamba, Hosana. It has just been absolutely unbelievable, and we've had interaction between them, we've had feeding. It's just been so insane, and in the perfect way really to kick off a cat a day, that's for sure. So I think Tingana is going to give us one last incredible show as he goes up the tree. Yep, there we go. Look at the skill and power of a male leopard as he goes up. Well, what a way to finish our sunrise safari. It's been an absolute pleasure. So from Brent and James and myself, we'll see you all in the afternoon.